Hi, everyone. Hi. You're all so cute. Oh, my gosh. Thank you for being here, whether in a physical capacity, online, today or in the future. Or the past. I don't know how universes work. Thank you for your presence. I'm really glad that you're here. Where I stand, it's stolen land. The Melbourne CBD is the traditional land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'm a white person who benefits from theft, genocide, colonisation and greed. Now, we're all pretty good at acknowledging the traditional owners. I think we've all got a handle on that. I'd really like to encourage you to take that one step further. If you're also on stolen land, people inside the internet, I'd like to urge you to pursue restorative justice through paying the rent. That guy. It's pretty easy to find online. Set it up, keep paying it, keep listening to the rightful original custodians of the land you find yourself on. And if you're not sure how to vote in the upcoming referendum, I urge you to listen to First Nations people. Senator Briggs tweeted yesterday, he's a cracker, not everyone who's voting no is racist, but every racist will be voting no. So I'll just leave you with that. I'm Jasper Peach. We're here to talk about pride, and that's this month's theme. I read a gorgeous quote from author Anne Voskamp earlier this week, where I do most of my learning on Instagram. She said, "Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. So let's make this a safe place, hold each other with care and respect." So with that, I want to let you know that during our time together, I will mention the name of a person who was murdered, and there are trauma themes woven throughout this story. I'll also be talking about fascism and bigotry. So please don't hesitate to take a breather whenever you need to. It's not all heavy, I promise. There will also be levity in our time together. But I think it's a wonderful thing to know what you need in order to feel okay. So please don't feel the need to sit still. If you need to wriggle or stand up or go up on those big steps at the back or walk up and down the thing or sit on the floor, I don't know how to sit on chairs because I'm neurodivergent. So please, we're not at the library in grade 2. Just do what you need to do for your body to feel happy. Sit, wriggle, whatever. And we will have time for questions at the end. Ooh, pride. It's a pretty tender theme, I think. We're meeting today a few days after California shop owner Laurie Carlton was shot and killed at work by a person so full of hate they felt like they had the right to end her life, all because she refused to remove a pride flag she'd hung outside her store. Laurie Carlton was an ally and a beloved member of her community and family. She was in the thick of a life full of love. It's scary to see what can happen when someone displays their pride. It's disheartening and devastating to see what people are capable of simply because they disagree. There are so many other positive connotations to that word, but I wanted to mention Laurie because she's been very present for me this week while I've been prepping for this. But when I think about pride, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, that's me. Gay stuff, yeah? Gay. It's also the collective noun for lions. It's a reason for people to gather and protest or celebrate and be visible. Apparently, it's a sin. Pride sometimes comes before the fall. I had a lot of fun getting the images together for this. And crucially, pride is a way to flip the narrative when you are politicised for elements of who you are. So Jasper Peach, that's the name I gave myself in the second year of the pandemic. Some of us gave ourselves home fringes or divorces or puppies or jigsaw puzzles. I went with the name, gender and career change, the trifecta. Thank you. I'm here partly because a number of years ago I married Jessamy and Dan, who are both part of the CreativeMornings team here in Naarm. And I worked as a marriage celebrant for almost 2 decades. I love. Concurrently, I worked in community broadcasting, did a stint. Oh, hold on. There's Jessamy and Dan. Look how cute. Oh my God, that was so gorgeous. I learned to crochet that weekend. That was cool. I also did a stint of breakfast radio around 2010. I'm sure nobody will remember. I do not remember, on PBS in Collingwood. And before that, I worked at gay and lesbian radio station Joy 94.9, now Joy Media. There's baby me putting my feet up like you're not allowed to. Before that, I was an Australian Sign Language or Auslan interpreter, and prior to that, I thought I was heterosexual. In terms of work, I was a disputes officer at a phone company for a number of years. You may notice a correlation between my sexuality and time spent doing creative work. I think that's because the queer community is comprised of people who have needed to dig deep and discover who they are. Our status isn't necessarily genetic or location-based. It's often about self-identification. Growing up in the 1980s, every signal I got about queerness, sexuality and gender was either dangerous or a caricature. The messaging was that you would either die from HIV/AIDS, be rejected by your family and friends, or be a joke, comic relief for the normal people. So pride was something very hard to find. In my early 20s, working at the telco, I was the yes friend. I would do anything to keep my creative mind engaged. Life drawing, dancing, pottery, Japanese cooking, going to any and every gig and basking in the creative output of others. Seeing performers in their power, I found them so exquisite to behold. I hoped that one day I could feel like they looked. And then the right thing came along. Through a friend's request. Hey, will you come with me to an Intro to Auslan course? It's on Tuesday nights. Yeah, all right. Duck, water, neurons exploding, a sense of relief and pure joy. I was good at this. I understood everything straight away. The shapes danced from my hands. I left my job, having figured out what I wanted to be when I grew up, and studied full-time for 2 years, fully immersed in this new language, grammatical system, and linguistic minority group. These people, they were like me. One of them lured me out of the closet with sex and Birkenstocks, and then I came out for the first time, a lesbian. That was 2005. A lot of life has happened between then and now. These days, I'm an author. My debut book, You'll Be a Wonderful Parent, was published this year. Thank you. You guys. It's an accessible, reassuring and clarifying book about how there is a place for you in parenting as a queer person, that you matter, and that whoever you are, you're not alone. You can be proud and visible. That's Dolly Waffle. She's real excited. There's illustrations from Quince Francis, a fellow non-binary parent, that depicts us in our everyday lives. We can see who it's possible to be. I created the book that didn't exist, that I'd needed, and now countless people worldwide have told me the book has given them exactly what they needed for their parenting adventure. I'm also an activist. An activist and speaker. I work with themes of misplaced shame around disability, queerness, gender and parenting. My wife and I have 2 ridiculously adorable, sweet children, and we live in a regional area on half an acre with our 2 rescues, Cool, the honey-coloured Labrador, and Dr. Flossie, the tabby cat. I gave my cat a non-binary sort of identity before I realised myself. I learned from Dr. Flossie. Now, both of the following statements are true at the same time. My life is fantastic. Every moment is experienced through a filter of fear. But how does that relate to creativity and pride? I will have a drink while you think about that. Stick with me. Okay. Somehow, my job has become things like today. Somehow, all the things this world has told me I'm not supposed to be proud of have become my greatest assets. I'm bigger than everyone in this room. I have an energy-limiting, invisible dynamic disability. I'm queer. I identify as transgender because understanding my non-binary gender means I'm not the gender I was assigned at birth. It made no sense to me. I don't have an undergrad degree. I'm scared all the time of one thing or another. My work is piecemeal and arty and difficult to explain/justify. I'm now middle-aged. Yeah. And I feel like this chunk of time, this creative work, it's the start of my real, full, joyous life. This is the part of my story where I'm swimming in clarity that only deepens. At the moment, I'm completing an independent research project supported by the Victorian Government through Creative Victoria on children's literature and the notion of health. By the end of 2023, I'll have created a manuscript for young readers that covers those messages that are missing. My children come home from kindergarten telling me, if I eat my vegetables, I'll be healthy and strong forever. I have always eaten my vegetables and I'm still disabled. I'm strong, but not in the way they mean. The parts that are missing in these health messages are that everyone, regardless of their health status, is deserving of love, friendship and respect, that we should all be kind and be aware that health is impacted by so many things, not just vegetables. This creative life is a very topsy-turvy story. It's hard to get the timeline right. You probably noticed I'm going all over the place, and there's a reason for that. Okay. My brain is a pinball machine. It has whirring, tumbling ideas and confusion, brain fog, combination ADHD, complex PTSD, just some additional fun mental illness, and above all, a creative core. My CPU has always been very silly and full of ideas. So those ideas have kept me alive, as well as sending me down all manner of rabbit holes. But lately, these ideas have all been revolving around pride, shame, acceptance, and regret. Whoops, that's me. Ready for some pinball? Let's go. Okay, here's me as a kid. So Orkies. Cool outfit. Oh my God, it's the same t-shirt. Constantly confused, often ashamed, different, worried. I understood I was allowed to be proud of academic success. I learned from every direction never to be proud of how I looked, that loving myself was vain and very wrong. I understood I could be proud when I stumbled across the netball team at school and joined in. I learned I was allowed to be proud when people are relieved about an action you've taken. There's this tall poppy syndrome we talk about endlessly in Australia. You hear it in phrases like, oh, they're a bit too big for their boots and don't get ahead of yourself. But for me, it's always been in the unspoken. The looks of disbelief when you shine too bright, the way people go quiet when you join them if your difference is unpalatable to them. How in some settings people don't seem to register that you've spoken, no matter your volume. It's these signals that tell you you're not the same, you can't sit with us. And that intersects with pride, which I'll come back to once the pinball comes back to the spot. So enough about me, let's talk about you. I'm going to ask you to do something now. It's your choice whether you take part. Close your eyes, direct your attention inward. When was the last time you felt proud? Can you call that feeling in, embody it, feel it tingling through you? What does it depend on to exist? Is it solid or precarious? Strong or faint? Does that feeling belong to you? Okay, open your eyes, have a wriggle, shake it out. Yeah. Now close your eyes again. Go within and consider this question. When was the last time you felt shame? What does that feel like? Can you call on that feeling now? Is it yours? Or did someone decide you should have it? Whose voice is describing the shame in your head? Who is insisting that it's yours? Okay, open your eyes. Shake off that shame. It's super gross. Okay. So over the last year, I've been crawling inside all my trauma and dismantling it piece by piece. I have 4 therapists. It's big work. I'm trying to truly understand and reclaim my life as much as I can. Recently, my therapist, Vivian Golan, and I were talking about these words, pride, shame, acceptance and regret. And it has changed everything for me. It's a tender and gentle beginning into inhabiting my life in a clearer way. So, okay, I put it to you, this is my hypothesis today, that some of us, those who are wired with intense sensitivity for whatever reason and awareness of the wider group and how we intersect with them, how all of these things impact our level of safety, that pride and shame are 2 sides of the same coin. And here's why. They are both closely related to ego. Ooh, ego is loud, it's urgent, but it doesn't necessarily take the bigger picture into account. Ego is insistent that your sense of self is implicated by how well you fit in with others or that others fit in with you. I have some examples because theory never lands. So for me, here's an example. You won an award, yay. Someone else decided you were the best. You sold lots of books, yay. Other people bought them. You are part of a community because there is similarity to others and you belong in some way. You place yourself in relation to them. Okay, now if you wish, please close your eyes. Last time I'll ask you to do this. I promise I'm not going through your bags or anything. Direct your attention inward to your heart or soul or whatever it is that guides you. And consider, when was the last time you felt acceptance? That you accepted a situation or a feeling or a thought? How did it feel in your body? Was it calm or urgent? Soft or jagged? Slow or rushed? Is your ego anywhere near it? Okay, come on back, shake it out. Welcome back to the room. Thank you for going there with me. In my nervous system, acceptance, it feels gentle. It's a knowing that things are the way they are and my feelings will not change that. It's dropping out of fight or flight. It's a liberation from a fear-driven, supercharged, distorted sense of responsibility to make everything safe. When I accept that my powers, although mighty, cannot immediately change everything that's wrong, my shoulders drop and I can exhale fully. Some examples. In 2014, I stopped fighting the reality of my disability and accepted that I have chronic pain. For the first time in 10 years, I was not depressed for the whole winter. The what-ifs related to this were loud and insistent, but ultimately flawed. What if I'm giving up? What if I lose momentum? I won't earn enough to pay my rent. People will forget me. People will be angry with me. I'll disappoint them. I'll become a shadow who fades away. What if I'm all alone with my broken body in misery and pain? That's bleak. Whoa. Some alternative what-ifs and whys. What if we were less invested in the shifting opinions of other people? Why is rest a bad thing when your body needs it? What if allocating time for your own needs results in you becoming more consistent? What if grabbing what you need makes your light shine brighter? And what if your authenticity and honesty is a flame that people you truly connect with are drawn to? What if you demonstrating this is the catalyst for someone else accessing more compassion for themselves? These things take nothing from anyone else. What changes is your capacity to honour yourself within an acceptance framework. Okay, another example. Ooh, this one's a bit hairy. Okay. I accept that there are TERFs and bigots, that fascists exist, that they march in the streets of my town to call for the erasure of trans people. They say terrible, untrue things about malicious intentions we do not have. I accept that this happens. It's a fact. That does not mean I agree with what they're doing, thinking or saying, but I can't fix it just because it hurts. Here's me in the little magenta tie, mid-sentence, conducting a mass illegal wedding for equal love. Before marriage equality, they organised a march and mass wedding every year until we won our basic human rights. As a baby activist, so much of my energy burned up like a comet on entry in righteous flames of anger and hurt. I thought caring about identity and community meant I had to ignore my own capacity, my disability, my needs. Anger, pain, fatigue, and the mighty burnout. It's quite a cocktail. I didn't feel safe to acknowledge or accept that our presence in protest does not erase those in opposition to our existence. But whether I accept that or not, it's happening. When I accept that these people who hate me and my community, that they exist, I can move on to the bigger picture. I'm not distracted by the total draining suckhole of rage against a far bigger machine than me. That rage collides with my brain's wiring and tells me I'm not safe unless I fix it, and I'm stuck in an impossible eternal loop. I can decide to turn away, focus my attention on knowing that the core of me, that silly creative CPU, it's pure love. It has no business interacting with hate. It's oil and water. They want me to tire myself out fighting them and drowning in fear so I can't continue existing and thriving. There is power in protest. Presence and visibility matter. Crowds gathering to show solidarity is incredible, and I'm so emotional every time I see people marching on the side I agree with. Those wacky lefties who believe trans lives matter. I'm overwhelmed when I see dykes on bikes on the front lines there to protect us from cops and fascists. It's so beautiful. That is solidarity. If you can do it, you must. If you believe we have a right to be alive and visible and you have capacity, I don't understand why you wouldn't. But I have to accept that I can't be part of it with my presence, not with my body, not with my brain the way it is. Accepting that and reconciling that with my values was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to work through. There is a place for activism and protest that is accessible to me, and it's this little pink goblin cave office adorned with multiple Dolly Parton idols, tapping away on my laptop to create resources that bolster us. My work is elevating our community by drawing attention to our everyday sacred light. It's there when we make school lunches and tell our children we love them and go to work or WAG work. You should do that, it's cool. It's there when we are visible and present, just going about our lives. So the thing is, stick with me here, the bigots are doing their best. We all are, every single one of us. We are each made of our histories, our environments, our capacity to learn, our core beliefs, and our resources and communities. The bigots and TERFs completely trust in their message and feel it's of utmost importance to align themselves with fascists and try to silence and erase transgender people. The person that murdered Laurie Carlton this week believed in their right to end her life. Every moment of that person's life prior to her last breath led up to that moment. It's disgraceful and unjust. They were so sure they were right. I can't stop that death retroactively. None of us can. I'm sickened by how fragile our lives are and how someone else's best resulted in that. But I must accept it or I'll lose my mind in a way I cannot come back from. Enough about me, let's talk about you. If you stop and reflect on your life, can you say hand on heart that you're doing your best? I think you can. You might be arguing with me in your brain going, but I haven't done a marathon or read Moby Dick or whatever. If you were a bit cross with someone when they cut you off in traffic and you gave them this, you were doing your best, right? They were too. We don't know what the hidden lives and workings of people's beings are unless we inhabit their souls. Sometimes that tall poppy syndrome is the lens with which we have learned to view the world. I'm not in any way suggesting I'm better or worse than anyone else, that I'm a taller flower and they're a noxious weed. Hierarchies are constructs that the ego loves. What's happening is I'm living in parallel to every other part of humanity and nature, not just the ones I align with, and I have to believe that in our own way, we're all doing our best. I don't know what other people's best looks like or feels like. I can only work on my own. So that's where the link to pride and acceptance comes in. My crackly brain and, as my friend Jamila Main says, my very nervous system need a softer landing than pride, than being swept up in a literal parade or festive month celebrating a unified emotion that I'm not sure I can actually strictly feel. I commend people who do, and my neurodivergence means things have to make sense to me or I feel deeply uncomfortable. I can't reconcile it. It's been essential for me to give myself permission to work within my capacity. That is to say, gentle, radical acceptance. That feels like something I can apply to most situations. When I can accept the way I am, and then things outside of me are the way they are, I have enough juice in my tank to go beyond reacting to creating. That's a tiny unicorn I made for my child. It doesn't mean I never grow or change or try. It means I understand the best ways for me to do that. Writing is a way to disentangle all the confusion and discomfort. I'll see how my shoulder went like that. Just thinking about it. I write and write until all the blurry globs of interconnected facts and feelings are laid out in clear, straight lines, and then I feel better. And people who read my work tell me they feel better too. I'm just going to show you a few opinion pieces, bylines. I'm not saying, I don't have hot takes, I'm just sort of saying, anyone relate to that? School sport was the blurst, and now, yay, weightlifting. I find that people don't often say the simplest things, but they're not simple, are they? They're complex, they're hard to get to. This is a big one. Probably once a month I get a DM. Oh, I have all these things going on and I have all these diagnoses. Am I allowed to say that I'm disabled? And then I send them this and they go, oh, thank you. Time for pinball. Okay, you may be thinking, it's just a word. Is this nitpicking? Are you saying acceptance is more correct than pride? It's not that, I promise. Examining the power of words, the choices we make, and their resulting impact has been the heart of every job I've ever loved and thrived in. Broadcasting, interpreting, writing, conducting wedding ceremonies, funerals, baby namings, creating and enacting ritual, speaking, all of it. The words we choose and the meanings we attach to them flow through everything. Through our minds, bodies, nervous systems, and into the unspoken parts of interaction. Earlier, I'd let you know I was going to ask you to do something, to close your eyes. That's important. Closing your eyes means you become vulnerable. Asking is not telling. Asking implies my favourite C word, consent. Consent isn't just for sexy time, it's sexy all the time. Yeah. So if there's one thing you can take away from today, it's an invitation to choose your words thoughtfully. I'll give you some examples because I love examples. These all feel so different to me. Some of them feel, and others are like, ugh. So thoughtfully or carefully, passionate or sanctimonious, living or surviving, tolerating or accepting. I hate tolerance. I have tolerance of your queerness. I don't need to be tolerated, dipshit. Invitation or command. Then there are other words like queer, disabled, fat, health. They should be neutral, right? But people took these words and they added their judgment and their hierarchies. So we claim them back and say, you can't have that anymore. You broke it. I'm fixing it. And I'm doing that by creating alternative resources to the noise and the flooding of our systems that I don't think are the full picture. So what's the opposite of shame? What's the opposite of feeling activated, persecuted, and needing to defend ourselves? For me, individually, it's not pride for me, it's radical acceptance. And here's what that can look like in a practical sense. We don't hold on to clothes that don't fit us. And if we keep them, they're not in the rack of items we select from every day. We don't assume our children work on the same timeline as us and end up screaming at them every morning, "Oh my God, put your shoes on, we're going to be late." We feel genuine joy for people who receive opportunities that also would have been a great fit for us. We rest. These guys, they're my rest teachers. I'm sorry, I have so many photos of cool to show you. Oh, Flossie. And my other friend, the laundry. We nourish our bodies and souls. We listen and are able to hear the truer, softer sound. We hydrate. Cucumber water, so good. We indulge without hating ourselves or feeling like we've been bad. We dance and sing and release what does not serve us. Acceptance looks like being liberated from capitalism, lookism, fat phobia, and measures of success. What about shame? Oh my God, okay. Stick with me if you can. Shame can be traded in for regret, and it's good, okay? Because when we regret something, we can feel it, process it, and let it go. Ugh, but shame, no. There's this Auslan sign that literally means, and I don't mean to do this at anyone specifically, so I'm just going to do it at my little air guy. Shame on you. I'm taking my shame that I refuse to own, I'm placing it on you. It covers your face, it becomes your identity. And something that was never yours to begin with is impossible to break down and disentangle. You can't process it and let it go. It doesn't make sense. It's a plastic yogurt lid in the compost that hangs around forever. Regret takes a different shape. Sometimes it looks like that. Some examples. I regret that participating in the medical system in this country resulted in gaslighting, trauma and lasting harm. I accept it was the only option I knew about at the time, and that the shame I feel isn't mine. That the shame projected onto me interrupted the life I was meant to live. So now that I've found a deeper understanding of how all of me intersects with a homogenous, outdated, patriarchal, pretty crap system, and I can move on from expectations that don't fit or work, I have the capacity to do my best to live my life well, authentically and with clarity. Another very serious example. I regret that I am now hyperfixated on organic corduroy overalls because there are so many colours and economic limits are preventing that from happening. It's deeply uncomfortable. What about taking responsibility though? Okay, if I'm framing regret as something unfortunate that I'm saddened by, rather than something I need to actively correct, how will anything ever change? If the fascists and the TERFs and the transphobes are not held to account for their actions, how will I ever be safe? I'm not safe. I don't think I will be in this lifetime. People are ending lives with their hatred and their guns over a flag that, Jessamy, help me hang up back there, that represents my right to exist. It happened this week. Accepting my lack of safety weirdly helps me feel safer. Accepting that felt like liberation from a battle I never had the capacity to participate in and never consented to. This guy, my brain, it's short-circuiting on an eternal loop, right? It's created by chronic pain, complex trauma, and it reminds me every second that the world isn't guaranteed to be safe. I always found that hard to accept and raged and fought what my own control tower was telling me 1,000,000 times a day. It's exhausting. Right now, look, to be honest, I'm scared of breathing, I'm scared of my lungs shutting down, I'm scared of germs, I'm scared of needing medical attention, which in the past has led to psychosis. I'm scared of negative attention after saying these things publicly. I'm scared of all the hate there is in the world and how it manifests. I'm scared of whatever that siren is going to. I hope that the people are okay who are involved in that. I'm scared that people who do have capacity to protest and give their presence to causes that create safety will think, oh, someone else will do that, they don't need me. I actively and intentionally accept that I am fearful and afraid all the time. I'm not using all my energy on fighting it anymore. And I understand how fear can influence my thoughts in the moment. The responsibility I take is in being as honest as possible with myself and others. Thank you for witnessing that today. It's assessing whether someone else's shame is influencing my beliefs and trying my best to shift the message in my mind to one that tells me I'm acting with love and care, that I know myself well and the twists and turns of a brain like mine, to understand and accept the ways I can participate in my own safety and creative output. I'm doing my best, and so are you. So is the person who cut you off in traffic or didn't respond to your email. Even the most heinous person you can think of is doing their best. Their best just looks different to yours. So enough about me. Let's talk about you. Your response to anything and everything can be informed by what is possible for you. What sings out from your heart? Are you a policy legend? Can you give your time to help a cause in some way? If you're time poor but financially able due to earning great money, can you donate and back the people who can physically show up? What do you think of these ideas? I'm not the boss of you. If pride resonates deeply and acceptance doesn't, I'm thrilled that you know yourself well enough to articulate that. What's your version of this, though? Is there something in your life that you're automatically a part of that you're not sure is the right fit? Can you give yourself the compassion you need to inhabit what serves you? If shame is useful to you and you're able to process it and let it go, I applaud you and I'm so jelly. I'd love to hear your thoughts and listen deeply to what you mean. But here's the thing, right? Theories are like shoes. If they're not comfortable and you don't feel aligned and gorgeous and at peace when you wear them, why would you invest in them? If acceptance and regret are ringing bells for you, I invite you to give yourself a quiet moment and use whatever tools work best to noodle around with these concepts. A whiteboard, a voice memo, an email, interpretive dance, whatever melts your butter. If you absorb these concepts and decide to view your life through this lens, don't be surprised if a massive challenge just falls in your lap. You might decide, okay, that's it. I'm practicing acceptance. Next minute you discover your house has termites. You discover your whole worldview will be practicing regret and releasing it, but then your brother calls you and you just want him to shut up and stop being a jerk, and anger is actually working really well, thanks. Nobody is less perfect than me. This framework and perspective is something I have begun to attempt every day, and I will never perfect it. But trying feels really good. It's unblocked every creative channel that used to be so stuck, so scared of being unsafe or getting it wrong. So do I feel proud of myself? That good, juicy feeling of going well, being full of love, it doesn't feel exactly like that word to me. And you know, words are important. I feel at ease with myself, and that helps my creative process more than anything. If I felt ashamed of any part of who I am, my physical body, my mind, the way it works or doesn't work, the conditions needed for me to flourish, that would halt me in my tracks. And that happens frequently because imposter syndrome is so challenging to diffuse. Until I take a step back, really look at it, assess it as shame that isn't mine, regretfully accept that humanity has a long way to go and that I'm part of that, and proceed with the work. Just keep going. I wish you love. I wish you an abundance of all that you need. And I want you to know, for what it's worth, I accept you just as you are. I truly hope you can give yourself this gift with all of your heart. I'd like to open up for questions now. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Did I understand the assignment? I didn't watch anyone else's, I'm sorry.
Absolutely incredible. Just let's hear it one more time. One question that's come in via Slido, and then we'll take two more either via Slido or from the audience. So, I had it memorised and then I forgot it. So this is from Marion.
Questions there.
Hey! What practices do you have to figure out what you need? Great question.
That's a juicy question. Thank you, Marianne. I make sure I'm really, really busy so I can't think, and then I notice that I've done that, and then I stop everything and listen. And listening might look like I'm playing Tetris and doing the dishes and thinking about something else, but it's marinating away, and then all of a sudden, bleh, it'll come out. So that's how I do it. I wouldn't ask me for advice, but but whatever your version is, like how do you access what's really underneath all the stuff? I think for anyone who's come out in some way in the LGBTIQA plus thing, it's probably been buried under some stuff. It's a similar process for needs, and a lot of us are conditioned to ignore our needs. So how can you actively support your own confidence to listen to what your core, what your CPU is telling you? Yeah, sometimes it's doodling or crocheting or whatever. Yep.
Thanks, Jasper.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jasper? I've got time for one. Yeah, Jazz.
Thanks, Jazz.
So the picture of you all the way back in the, I also have an obsession with porn, but it's in jumpsuits instead of overall.
Yeah, they're so good. They feel so nice.
Go
Yep.
back to that version of yourself that was the younger version. What is the one piece of advice you would give them in hindsight?
I've done this a lot do you guys know what EMDR is? So it's a type, if you don't know, it's a type of trauma therapy where you repair bits of your mind that were kind of severed when something awful happened, and it rebuilds pathways where you feel safety. So I do a lot of work where I go into spaces where that person was very unsafe, and I offer that child my hand, and I tell them the wonderful life that's coming for them, and that safety is coming, and this will not be how it is forever. You've got to do it in a gentle way. Yeah, and giving yourself gentleness it's a hard thing to learn when you've had to shut down a lot. But it is possible. You just need the right supports. And sometimes the right support is talking to a friend, and then they might know a really good therapist, and then you connect with them, but that doesn't work, but they know someone else. It can be a bit of a journey, to use the Australian Idol word, but it's very much worth it, and what becomes possible as a result of that is unbelievable. It's life-changing. Yeah. Any other questions? Roz? Thanks, Roz.
Any messages for parents based on the things you've shared here?
So if you didn't hear, the question was, do you have any thoughts for parents based on all this? I think when your child is telling you something and it's important to them, you need to drop everything and listen, and show them that you've heard them and that you understand what they've said, and ask them more questions, and never say, oh, it's okay, because they're telling you, because they're not okay. Welcome their feelings, and even if they're hard, welcome them and affirm them. Yeah. Yeah. And look, there happens to be a stack of books. They're yellow. They look nice on your bedside table or coffee table. It's a great gift. People call it the friendly banana book. And I've just put my bank details on a piece of paper, so you can just do it and take a book if you like. I'm happy to sign them if you want me to deface your book. Yeah. Any other questions? You bunch of cuties. Yes, yellow beanie person.
Again, this has been fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
Very much with quite a lot
curious whether, I know that your writing is taking you in a place towards children's health, which looks really fantastic. Are you thinking about in the future maybe talking about some of the things that you mentioned today in a way that's accessible to other people as well?
Thank you. That's a really beautiful question. Thank you. If you didn't hear that question, this person asked, my work is taking me in the direction of writing for children around health. Is there anything in the pipeline for adults that's accessible? I've got a manuscript sitting there that I'm waiting for my publisher to get back to me about. But I don't know, I also believe, it wasn't the right time just yet. I think I've got a little bit, because I was in the middle of all this stuff. So I think in a few months I'll look at it again and go, here you go, and that will be the right time. So yeah, but give me your email, I can send you some stuff that I'm just fanging around with. Yeah, thank you for that question. Yes, any other questions? It doesn't have to be about the talk, we can just talk about coffee or whatever. Do you have to go to work now? What are you all doing today? Should I be asking these questions like this? I don't know. What's that? Oh, you're wagging? Dynamite, so good. I love it. My wife taught me to wag. I didn't know that you were allowed to because I thought the rule was no. And then one day I was like, I don't want you to wag. And she's like, I'll ring. I'll tell them you're sick. And I was like, what? What do you mean? I was 30. So that was life-changing. Yeah, if you need time to yourself, that doesn't really fit in with the 40 hours a week you're meant to work. Who's got 40 hours? Get out of town. Should we wrap it up? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.